Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Old School Rentals in Loretto, Tennessee is headquarters for all your rental equipment needs. Need a trailer? How about saws, tools, loaders, or generators? You can find all of that and much, much more at Old School Rentals. Owner Ryan Smith, located on North Main Street in Loretto, Tennessee.
I'm Mike Keith, and my friends at Elliott Johnson Insurance have a great partner in Auto Owners Insurance. Auto Owners makes it easy to get life, home, car, or business insurance. Let Elliott Johnson Insurance find the Auto Owners policy that makes a difference in your life. Call Elliott Johnson Insurance at one of their 3 locations, Florence, Loretto, and Lawrenceburg. Elliott Johnson Insurance, moving forward for our clients every day.
Truett's Garage Doors in Leoma, Tennessee is your one-stop for new garage door installations for all commercial and residential buildings, plus they offer full service on all existing doors. Need a new garage door opener? Truett's Garage Doors has you covered. As an AMAR Gold and LiftMaster dealer, Truett's Garage Doors offers the best pricing anywhere in the area. A family-owned and operated business, Truett's Garage Doors has been helping Tennessee and Alabama residents since 1999. Call the pros today at Truett's Garage Doors, 931-201-6464.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Sports, talking all things golf here in the state of Alabama. Once again, joined by Daniel Creer, Jason Vaughn. Jason, he's looking a whole lot better, man.
Yes.
How closer are you almost to full strength?
Flexibility wise, like being able to bend it, have full extension, and then the flexion that you need.
Yep.
I'm at 115 degrees, and so they want to be 125 to 130. So as far as full strength, I'm still got a little bit to go, but moving better. And really, in my previous surgeries, I really didn't take the word of physical therapists and things like that. I wanted to get back as soon as I could because I want to hit golf balls and I want to do what I want to do. And in that realm, I think that, and now in this, I'm trying to take it step by step and do it so I don't have to have another replacement. So this is hopefully the last one. So
Hopefully.
maybe.
Hopefully the last one.
Isn't it funny how we work? We sit there and teach processes, and you have to do everything step by step, but the instructor
Doesn't do that.
But you are now, right?
That's right, 100%.
That's awesome.
I'm on line with what he wants.
It took him this long to realize the process.
42 years.
Well, Daniel had to leave the show last week to make it to Disney World, and obviously he's here. There's no scratches on him, which means a revolution didn't happen at his house. But
right.
It's good to have you back this week after hopefully what was a nice, relaxing weekend in the land of the ears.
It was good. It was weather was fantastic. It was predicted rain with the hurricane coming in, but honestly, we learned something new. The crowds were low because of the storm coming in, so of course you don't root for hurricanes and want them, but we may start booking our trips around them because the lines were I mean, you could literally walk on the rides, but once we got to the weekend, the sun started coming out, crowds were back to their normal hour and a half wait.
For a couple days, though, right?
It was awesome for a couple of days.
All right, well, guys, our first segment here, Swing Made Simple. We've talked about the progression and what you guys look at when you look at body placement, hand placement, all that stuff. Now it's time to go to the next step of it.
That's right. So we've covered grip, and we've covered kind of the alignment, things like that. So just the basics, and we talk about it. Jason, you said it last week. I refer to it as the free throw of golf, things that you have in control. So there's a lot of things during the golf swing. Once you start signaling that swing, the brain fires and it kind of goes rogue and it goes back to the motor skill, and the conscious mind doesn't have a whole lot of control, but it's what's ingrained into the swing. So again, we want to prep the bodies to the best of our ability to make that motor control, or that firing of the muscles, the neurological signals sent to the muscles to fire, which creates the swing, correct?
Yep.
To happen right. So today, what do we want to talk about, Jason?
I think that continuing on the progression of, we started with the ground, we've moved to the grip. I think something that is very important, and you want to kind of go into a little bit of the posture and how the arms hang, and how each student would know, do I have my arms in the right spot? Hang down, do they hang on my body, close to my body? Do they hang, stretched out? And where does that go in between clubs, whether we're hitting a pitching wedge, whether we're hitting a 3-wood, or whether we're hitting a dropper? And the main thing is, like I was telling you earlier, I've had this question 3 times this week in lessons, is how do I know 100%, that's where my arm should be, and how do I get in that position repetitively? And which I think is something that is pretty important, because it's a simple thing, but it's something that a lot of amateurs don't really think about, or either they may do it wrong. They get their arms too close to their body, and then it messes with that takeaway that we want, or they get them too far away, and then it changes the swing plane and it makes them hit it on the toe. I mean, a lot of things could go wrong if you have your arms in the wrong spot. And so
those are good topics, and so these are things, again, that we still have. These are things that we have control over, right? We can get that set up, and once you get the clean setup and you're about to pull the trigger, you can forget about it, and all you have to do is focus on your creative side of the brain, which is how the ball is going to get to the target, because you've already done all the thinking up front. So let's talk a little bit about arm hang, and I know we're both really big on cause and effect. When we teach, we like to tell our students, hey, this is where it should go, but this is why. This is what it's causing, and this is what it could cause if you do it incorrectly. And a lot of teaching pros, I find, they tell students the right thing, but they don't really explain what it creates and the problems that it creates. So the selling fact because you got to think of students like, man, this feels really strange. Sure. And when they leave here, they just like, that felt terrible. I'm not going to do it. I didn't get the effects of the ball flight that I wanted, because, again, it's still some process and learning and things like that. But if we teach them the cause and effect, that's when you have to pitch the sale. This is why you need to do it. It feels strange. It feels different. It feels foreign. But we've got to go through the processes to correct it. So if the hands are too close to the body, and I'm going to stand right here and we can see if that camera can get on me. All right. So if the hands are too close, it's going to be something like this. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Jason mentioned something on the takeaway. So the takeaway, well, if I take it away appropriately, it's going to hit my leg. So it's going to cause people for their hands to separate. And we're going to get a little steep in the backswing. So if you're a little steep in the backswing, now you have further the travel to shallow it out, correct?
That's correct.
So I do have some golfers. I actually had one in here yesterday, a really talented junior that gets really up here, and he has to travel a long way. And he does it pretty good, but the fact is how repetitive can it be, because there's more movements to get back on plane. So the thing is, if his timing's off, he could shoot a really high number one day. So what we want to do is to make sure that takeaway is clean. And the thing is, a lot of instructors will be like, hey, you're separating with your hands out this way, and they forget to say, hey, your hands need to be out a little bit further just to make room, and you'll correct it naturally. So what about reaching too far? What can happen? It's going to be probably the opposite, right?
It's the exact opposite. And then your arms tend to come into your body, or you take it back and it goes way too flat and too shallow.
Yeah, basically our people that reach too far away will get low and around, and then they're going to still come over the top because their body's pulling them back in with all the tension that's created being low and around. So very important on having this correct. So it can cause, those plane problems you might have or viewers have, mm-hmm. It could be caused with their arms just hanging down simply. It's really caused in the setup. So let's talk about what it should look like.
I guess the way that I've done it over the years, and I think that you will feel the same way. We may do it different ways, or to come at it different ways, but once you get into your posture and you have your knees flexed, you have the bend from the waist, hinging
Let's
your
talk
hips.
about that, because we talked a little bit about posture.
Okay.
Let's talk about that, because that has to come before arm hang. So let's talk about bend in the waist and the bend in the knees, and we'll limit it to that. Keep it simple.
Okay. I guess starting at the bend in the waist, I want my students, once they get, let's say you're coming in and we're going fresh, we're going to go from a very, erect standing up position, straight up and down. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into a bend from the waist, hinge in the hips. So there's a few things that can go wrong there. Number one is we have a lot of people that will bend from their mid-back. So when they bend over, they'll do that.
They get too rounded in their back for everybody that's watching.
Yes, and that
people bend with their neck and mid-back, and it looks something like this.
Correct.
Which creates, and I'm just going to interrupt.
Right there, no, you're good. Right there, he's got the rounding off of his mid-back.
And what that's going to create is it makes it harder because the shoulder blades are rounded and those muscles get really tense and tight. You can't shallow the club. That's going to automatically trigger a steep and over-the-top swing just in that setup. One player that you can watch on tour that does it really good, Victor Hovland.
Definitely.
But anyway, there always are your exceptions, but traditionally you're going to see a flatter straight back.
That's correct. And with that flatter straight back, if you make that move and you go to take your chest and put it over, it's going to allow for your rear end will start moving back this way, and the upper body goes over, and you get to a point, I don't want you to get to an exact 45-degree angle, but I want you to get to a point to where you're balanced, and I will come up and take the student and get them to the position, and then I'll kind of touch them from the front, make sure they can't fall over that way, and then touch them from the back and make sure that they can't go that way. And one thing that we find is if you're too far over this way, I can't push you that way, but I can definitely push you that way. So it's
that
one
way
of those
is forward,
things.
so you should be forward.
That's right.
Shouldn't the player feel somewhere if they're too far forward? If they keep the balance in their feet, and this will be something most people have played basketball in their life, correct? And what I tell people is I want you to pretend like you're playing in a defensive position in basketball. So you're playing against somebody, your defense. That person on defense could go, or offense could go any direction,
Correct.
right? So you got to be pretty well balanced, right?
That's right.
To react to this, and the golf swing's very similar, in my opinion, because there's a lot of forces at play. You're rotating back, we got forces getting to this side, and then all of a sudden we're making that quick transition, and we got everything going. And there's a lot of movement from toe to heel and left to right. So you got to be well balanced.
You have to be well balanced.
So I tell my players is just, if you can just show me, I just have them do it. Like, hey, give me a good defensive position, and you're going to notice, and you said it earlier, you like to start from straight up and down.
Straight up
Too
and
many
down.
golfers try to start bending over before they even get into position. So I like to get in this, and then our body creates balance. Everything in the world tends to balance itself out. So the more you lean forward, most of my golfers stand up too straight. I very rarely get somebody that leans too far forward. And if they lean too far forward, they don't stay in it very long. But basically, so when you start leaning forward, your big butt goes out this way, which counterbalances you. If you do it appropriately, just trust it. You're going to stay centered. So we're here, and this is my good basketball position. I don't know. Is that a good basketball position?
More out that way, but there you go. Hand down, man down.
Well,
There
That's
you go.
right.
All right. Sorry. So for everybody that's
It was a good
basketball,
start.
you can make
It was a
fun.
good start.
Hey, we're trying to mix the two, right? So you're out here. All right. So what we're going to do is bend over, counterbalance ourselves with our butt, and we got a slight. I call it the crack of the knee.
Slight bend.
And a good way that I get people in there so they can do it when they go home, and again, I agree with you at the 45 degrees, maybe a little bit less, and usually it's around 48 to 52 is what we see with golfers, but let's get real. It's hard for a student to know that when they get home. You got to remember, everybody's built a slightly different, and I stole this one from a gentleman, Mike Adams, and y'all can watch him, but basically he says if you can put your knees or your hands on your thighs, and if you can bend your knees and bend at the waist at the same time, it's critical to do it at the same time, that when the hands touch the top of your knees, you stop, and that is your perfect position for your build. Everybody's torso, their arms, and their legs are a different length. So that is a very good way, and I'll demonstrate it one more time. We start straight, bend at the knees, bend at the waist at the same time, and when the fingers touch the top of your knees, you're in a good position, and I think that's a really easy way of getting there.
Go back to that position, Daniel, and stand there for me. And I want to say something.
So I'll go ahead and do our drill so our viewers can watch it again. There we are.
So right here, if you notice how flexed his knee, and they're in a slight flex, and his knee is not past where his the shoe tie on his or the bottom part of his shoelaces are. One thing that I would say 50% over the years will get to, there you go, they'll do that first to try to make sure that they're low enough to hit the golf ball or whatever, and so they flex first with their legs and then they bend from their upper body.
Yep.
And they have been told either to sit on a chair or whatever to get in their setup, and it is a terrible position to be in for a full swing. You need to have a slight bend in the knees. It should be very, very, very minimal. So
yeah, I think if you can set up and go along with that, focus on where the point of application of the weight is in the feet, and we want to be around the balls of the feet, maybe just a hair behind it, but we don't want to be in the toes yet. The toes will happen during the swing. We'll talk about that at a later date. But again, we want to be right at the balls of our feet, fairly equal, and we have that slight knee bend. And I tell my golfers, I want you, if you ever feel like you're too far away from the ball, you bend at the waist rather than the knees, because I very rarely see somebody that's just stiff-legged, and sometimes we see it, but again, that's usually the minority of the group
Definitely.
that we see. So keep that weight in the center, bend more at the waist than in the knees, and you should be good.
definitely. Arm hang. So how do we find what is correct in where your arm should be placed? I think just a great starting point is when you get into your posture and you get into that nice, you're bent from the waist, you got your knees slightly flexed. Where do your arms, if you just take your arms and let them hang down from your shoulders in a natural hang in front of your body, right there, like you're going to touch your hands together kind of as gripping the club, what you'll see is the arms are going to hang pretty in a neutral. They're not going to hang away from you or really far up under you, but they're going to hang just in a natural position in your shoulders.
So these viewers can see, and if I can get that camera on me, bring me this club. And I want you to hang that club, and you'll have to watch out for that camera. And I want you to hang it from my shoulder to my elbow, okay? So I'm going to get in our good position. I'm going to let it hang, and I'm going to hold this, and you can see how my arm bends there, but we should see a 90-degree angle created from down the bicep, so elbow to shoulder. If it's like this, that's no bueno.
No.
And if it's like this, no bueno.
No.
So we want this area to be straight down no matter really what club that you have.
You're correct.
The longer the club gets, you are going to reach out slightly further because the club is longer, and it's okay, but primarily for your mid irons and short irons, we need to be straight down, and then with your longer irons to fairway woods, you might see us really reaching out just a little bit further to create the width, because the club is just a lot longer and we don't want to hit underneath the ball. Yeah,
that's correct. And then we'll go to the last thing that goes into this, and this is something that, once again, I had a couple students this week that asked this question. I've had this over 20 years. I've had this asked numerous times, is should the club set flat on the ground, perfectly flat? I mean, I'm talking exactly flat on the ground. And the thing that I find is when a student comes in and they have the club setting completely flat on the ground like that, as you can see what it did to Daniel, is it raised his shoulders up. Now they're closer to his ears.
So it raised my shoulders, and it actually caused me to reach out some.
It did. And so now he's in a terrible position to shallow the club again. So then you end up just swinging like a robot, pretty much straight up, straight down. Very little flattening of the club or anything like that. It's really hard to rotate your arms and get them in the right position at the top. And the reason that the students come in and say that is they're like, if I want the club to come back to that position, so I'm going to start in that position. And it seems like a good thought from the beginning, but ultimately, as you know and I know from watching all the videos that we've watched, that there are very few players. There's some, mostly tour players,
Bryson.
that were. That's correct.
Bryson,
he
but
does.
that's about it.
So where they set the club on the ground, do they return it back to that same position? You know, how many golfers have you ever had that where their arm hang and their hands set, how many return it exactly back to where their hands are?
They don't. And again, the golf club's not designed for that because you're not really supposed to. I mean, it makes sense to build a set of clubs that, hey, your hands start and finish. But you notice Bryson is really stiff-armed. The thing is, he doesn't look relaxed. He looks really rigid. And the reason he gets in this position is because he starts there and he finishes there. It works for him. He does okay. But again, it took a lot of practice, and it took a lot of R&D with Cobra to build him a set that actually worked that way. Your traditional set that you're going to buy off the shelf or even get fit here is not built for that. And the thing is, these clubs are built for your hands to be slightly lower, and the toe is going to be up. And the thing is a lot of people notice this on the mats a little bit more because there's no grass. In the grass, you're not going to really see that toe up as much. But really, in reality, so I'm going to show you address and I'm going to show you impact. Impact, the club is going to raise slightly about 7 to 10 degrees, and it's going to be more forward, and it will be flat. And the club is designed for that. And we have machines here that actually read it. We call it dynamic lie.
Right.
So the lie of this 6-iron is going to be, I believe, 62.5. I'm just going off really quick. I'd have to look at my chart. I keep a chart because I do a lot of bending. So we'll say 62.5 degrees. And if this club comes through at 64 degrees, that means that you're coming in too vertical, and we need to bend the club even more. So the toe needs to be sitting up higher off the ground at address because you finished too high at impact. And the thing is, we have some golfers, very few. I get very few that actually finish lower, but I get most of my people that dig with the toe. They hit it off the toe. There is nothing worse than saying, hey, I need to bend my clubs or change my swing based off how the club sits on the ground at address. That is the least of your worries. And the thing is, it's all what's happening at impact and how you get there, and that's what we look at. And so you need to go to a professional and have it checked out and actually see what's going on through the impact zone versus what it is at the setup.
Yeah. All right,
I'll tell you another thing on arm setup.
Yeah.
Sorry, this has got to squeeze this in really quick because it's very important, is the length of clubs. Length of clubs. People that play with too short or too long of clubs can have issues with their arm hang, and it maybe just doesn't feel comfortable. And most people play with clubs too long because people think if they're 6'2", the clubs are too short for them and they get extensions, and they're absolutely probably wrong. They actually need something that's either standard and could be even shorter.
Well, coming up next, we'll finish this conversation here with Jason and Daniel here on the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports.
Fred Webb, broker, United Country, Southern Tennessee Realty. Let me and my team serve you.
Tyler Webb, 731-438-2084.
Travis Caldwell, 629-3033.
On the web, 931-321-8226.
You're gonna see me shine, 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 shine. Walking on beams of light, 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 light.
Fall on the Hill returns to Minor Hill October 7th from 2 to 8 with live music all day, vendors, hay rides, a petting zoo, pony wagon rides, a pop-up paint party, face painting, putt-putt golf, a jams and jellies contest, inflatables, and much more. Plus, don't miss the fireworks show at 8 p.m. Fall on the Hill 2023, brought to you by Minor Hill Alliance and Liquor World. Enjoy a day full of awesome music from Brace Killen, Damon Schrader, Josh Reisner, and Salem Rats. Armbands are $5. Don't miss Fall on the Hill, October 7th from 2 to 8 at 165 Ray Branch Road in Minor Hill, Tennessee.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be? And what would it be like? With today's home values, this is the perfect time to sell and make those dreams real. When you work with a world-class agent at Coldwell Banker, you benefit from trusted guidance and our revolutionary seller's assurance program to make your home sale more rewarding than ever. So it really is true. Your dreams don't have to be just dreams.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Back here at the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. Jason and Daniel here going to be continuing the conversation that we had from the first segment. Now you guys are going to talk about club length and some of the myths surrounding that. And
so I tried to squeeze it in at the end.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we had some extra time to talk about this, so I'm excited that you gave us that freedom today. So club length is a big topic, and a lot of people think that club length is based off just your general height. That is a good indicator, and it's just a small one that you can say, hey, yeah, you're 6'4", you're 6'1". There's a good chance that you might need a quarter inch, a half inch, but I see a lot of people adding an inch to their club, and Shaquille O'Neal might not even need that full inch, but again, he is a big guy, because the thing is, as humans, we typically grow proportionate, and what that means is if you grow taller from the ground, your arms are actually longer to counterbalance that. Does that make sense? So we really look at wrist to ground length and then fingertip to wrist. And the thing is, we get pretty scientific around here when we measure, and then we also look at your impact points on the club face, where the toe and everything is digging. So I'll tell you this, the height of the individual is probably the lowest on the pole for judging on the length of the club that a player should have. I'll tell you this, and again, I don't have any data to back it, but I do talk to club fitters, and if I ever meet a tour guy that fits or whatnot, I ask them questions about it. And most golfers on tour typically play with a little bit shorter of a club. Okay. And those are some pretty big guys. look at Tony Finau. He's a very good example. How tall is he? He's
6'4".
6'4". He's a giant, but when he sets up, it looks like he's down here. He really gets a lot more knee bend than I would really like, but he's very good at it. And there's always unique people. Everybody's built different, but you notice how much he bends at the waist, and that's what's awesome. And his hands get really low. I would be very surprised if he played with an extra long club. I don't know if he does, because his hands are so low and he's bent over to do it. I would just be shocked, and I need to do some research.
I have a student that's 6'8", that comes down from Tennessee, and he plays with 3/4 of an inch over, and he's 6'8". So we're talking about some of these people want inch over and things like that, because his arms, we did his, because he's 6'8", so we did his wingspan, and his wingspan is like an inch or so longer than, so he's like 6'9" on his wingspan. So when he sets up and his arms hang, they're not hanging like this right here, so he doesn't need that inch and a half, 2 inches, 3 inches, whatever. So going to what you're saying, is it really, there's so many depending factors other than if you just fit him off of I'm 6'8", you're going, you would think, well, he needs an inch and a half maybe.
I'll tell you, your average height is probably around 5'10" to 5'11", and your average height person probably needs a quarter inch short than standard.
I would agree with that.
And they actually call it tour length. If you went to a club company and ordered something special, you could say, hey, I want these tour length. They're going to saw off 3/4 of an inch. I'm a half inch short in my clubs, and I could probably go 3/4 and be a little bit more comfortable. But then you start messing with the swing weights. It gets kind of hard to counterbalance that and things like that. So again, if you can get it from the factory, do that. That's the way to do it. They have a lot more resources than somebody like me, even though I'm a club builder, to do that. It gets really hard to add weight in there. To counterbalance the length versus the head weight. But just keep it in mind, go back to the previous segment, bending at the waist is how you need to get closer to the ball, and golfers just fight it. The thing is your brain is designed to keep us on our own 2 feet and standing upright. The brain does not like to be bent over. So, and then people fight it and they don't even realize it. And going back to Jason talking about they bend like this or they bend their chin down like that, they feel like they're bending over, but at the end of the day, they're still standing up. So you got to kind of fight those tendencies. And most people that want a longer club think it because they're taller and they don't bend over enough.
Correct.
Is there a way you can feel it in your body, like when you kind of do that kind of hunchback thing? Is there a way that you can tell that you're doing that?
So once people are made aware of it,
Yeah.
they're like, I just didn't know I was doing that.
Yeah.
They didn't know. They're like this and rounded back. But once you get a person in a very good flat back, and what I mean flat back is when you're bending over at the waist, we're not bending over this way. See how the club separates? If I bend over here and I keep the club touching my head and my rear, once people get there, they're like, okay, I've never felt that before. I didn't know I could get there. And there are people that are tight between their shoulder blades that can't necessarily get in that perfectly flat. That's fine. Yeah. We just got to get there and loosen up the muscles and train them. Like, hey, this is where we need to go, and try to push it and push it and push it. But yes, once a person knows it and sees it, exactly what I do is I have a person, I'm just like, hey, just get in your comfortable posture, shoot a video, basically take a snapshot. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, now trust me, and I'm going to talk you through this one, and I'll get up there. And, you know, me and Jason, if you come get a lesson from us, we're pretty hands-on.
Definitely.
So be ready to be touched. And we'll kind of mold you where we want. And how's that feel? That feels like crap. This is what they say. And I'm like, what does it feel like? Could you ever hit a golf ball from here? And they're like, no, there's no way that you're supposed to hit a golf ball from here. And I hit record, and I show them side by side, and I'm like, all right, which one are we going to go to the golf course with tomorrow? And they're like, dadgummit. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to try to find either an in-between of this one and this one. Yeah. Or we're going straight to the other one. Yeah. But again, we got the setup is so critical because it's what we have in control. We're in control of it, and it influences the overall swing. People take it for granted. They're like, well, it doesn't matter my setup. Everything happens up here, and I can just overpower my brain, and I can just consciously swing from the inside, and you just can't. Or I can quieten my hands. And the thing is everything is triggered from the setup, and every little move on the way back is very important to be correct. And once you start firing down, you really don't have control. It's just whatever you've done, and I call it setting yourself up for success or failure. And most golfers set themselves up for failure straight from the beginning with their grip, alignment, and posture.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed is foot placement. Do you guys want it like kind of natural shoulder length, or a little bit beyond?
A little bit beyond. And again, Jason, I'm sure you agree. I like to see just a good starting point. Some people are different, but I like to see the inside of the foot on the outside of the shoulder. Okay. So that gives you a little bit kind of that pyramid look, get a little bit wider. And again, with the driver, I like to go even a little bit wider, but again, it doesn't need to be huge because the wider you go, the more that's going to influence more lateral, which some people need that lateral help. So hey, what we're going to do is if you need lateral help, we're going to flare your foot out a little bit, and we're going to widen your stance. If you got too much lateral already, we're going to bring you in, and we're going to straighten those feet. So foot flare have a big player. And again, it's not the same for everybody, but a good starting point is definitely the insides of your feet on the outside of your shoulders.
I think that's great. And then the shorter the club, we need more rotation, wedges, things like that. So you're going to go, I like to see my students inside of their foot. If you take the club and flip it upside down, right on the top of the pelvic bone, right on the outside of the hip. So it's right under the shoulder. So for wedge 9, something like that, where you're not having a lot of lateral motion, or don't need a lot. You need some lateral motion, but not a ton. You want a little more rotational. This is a shorter swing. We can do that, and also I'm pretty big on flaring the feet out. I think most of your amateur golfers that come in here to take a lesson are not flexible enough to internally, externally rotate their hips the correct way, or to get enough rotation. So flaring that foot out allows that to happen, and it helps it. And once we move their feet out, they're like, wow, that feels so much better. I can now turn my hip where I couldn't before. So,
yeah, there's different ways to approach it. And again, a foot flare is definitely promoted. Again, but you got to be careful on how much lateral it's allowing them to do, because you only have 100% of energy. Right. Your energy gets divided amongst all the movements in the body. So if one is still in too much, the other one doesn't get enough. So if too much lateral is happening, then less rotational. So a quick way, basically the sooner we can hit the brakes lateral, the more the rotational can kick in. So again, you got to be careful with it, but I am a big promoter that a lot of people struggle with the hip turns, and they really can't. They have problems in their hip flexors and lower quarter rotation and things like that. And again, that's something for individual. One mistake I see a lot of teaching pros make is when people come in here, they're like saying, I don't rotate enough. Well, why don't you rotate enough? How much should you rotate? I don't know. And the thing is I think it's overkill, and I don't think people have the proper understanding of what is enough and what is not. So at impact, typically you want to be around the range of 30 to 50 degrees hip rotation. That's a huge 20 degrees. That's massive. The only reason they go down to 30 is because Rory McIlroy's 31. Yeah. Everybody else is 42, 43. One of the longest hitters, number 2 in strokes gained in driving, and one of the longest drivers in the world, has very little hip rotation. You know why? It's because his timing of his vertical and lateral are really good. So the thing is there's 3 power generators, and that's lateral, rotational, vertical, and understanding those is huge. But we're going into, I chased a rabbit trail, but the thing is you got to come see Jason, and the thing is we can help you with that proper foot flare. We can help you with the proper stance and where you should be with each clubs. And one thing he said that is great is the shorter the shot. So think about this. Lateral plays a big part in power. So if you ever have a shot that's not full, you start bringing those feet in. And the ball goes shorter, right? Even though you swing full, the ball goes shorter. Why? Definitely. It's because when you bring the feet in, I can't laterally move. I'll fall over. That's right. So all we're doing is introducing more rotational, correct?
Correct.
So you're preventing that lateral movement, which creates power, which means instead of going wide and, hey, I need to stop this a little shorter, which is inconsistent and hard, I can just narrow it up, swing full, and I might lose 3 or 4 yards on that. Definitely. And I can be more precise with those irons.
Do you believe it's easier the more narrow you go to make or to help that student learn how to hit the half shot and the 3/4 shot?
Oh, absolutely. Every student that I talk to, when we're working on wedges and chipping around the green, I like those feet to be really close, and I actually like you to choke down because they're more precision shots. The closer you are here and the closer you are to the ball, which is choking down, that gets me closer and more personal, the more precise a golfer can be. So yes, narrowing the stance is number 1, because you don't want a lot of weight distribution from right to left. You want to stay pretty centered. And then choking down on it is 2 key moves that you can even use with an 8-iron. If you hit that 8-iron 140 yards and you got a 136-yard shot, don't try to shorten the swing. Narrow the stance, choke down a little bit, and swing full, and you should get that desired yardage.
That's right.
All right, well, good stuff there, guys. Well, coming up next here on the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. We're talking everything that's happening in the state of Alabama when it comes to the world of golf. That's next.
For the best at-home care in Lawrence County, the Summit at Home is the right company for you. We have a friendly staff, over 25, that is trained, educated, and qualified to help with all your needs within your household. Our non-medical services include transportation, housework, dressing, and companionship. We are also covered by most long-term care providers. For more information, please call 931-762-2310.
Got a dent, a ding, a scratch, or a bent fender? Major or minor, Car Country Collision Center in Leoma can fix you up. Car Country works with all insurance carriers, gives free estimates, can work on foreign and domestic vehicles, and has experience you can trust. They've been in business since 1990. Unfortunately, accidents happen, but you can get your car back on the road with as little hassle as possible with the help of Car Country. Call 931-852-4708 or stop by at 2567 Highway 43 South in Leoma.
Arctic Air keeps your home or business comfortable. For more than 20 years, we provided outstanding residential and commercial services through Southern Middle Tennessee. Whether you need assistance with your heat, air conditioning, preventive maintenance, or anything in between, trust our reliable team to get the job done. We'll take the time to figure out your specific needs and recommend what we believe is right and best for your situation.
We've been using Arctic Air for over 15 years now. Their service is great, they're here when we need them, and their prices are competitive. They take the worry out of the heat and air so I don't have to.
Arctic Air. When you need us, we'll be there.
Tennessee Flight Training. We are training the next generation of pilots. Come and see why Tennessee Flight Training is the best way to learn to fly. Tennessee Flight Training. The skies are calling.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. Now talking everything going down in the state of Alabama. Guys, big news off the get-go this past weekend. A couple Alabama guys, Nick Dunlap, Gordon Sargent, played in the Walker Cup, helped them lead the U.S. to a victory over the British. We just keep dominating the British in just about everything.
That's right.
And now we're back to doing it again in golf. They got to play at St. Andrews, especially Nick Dunlap, you know, the amateur winner. And he went over there and he had himself quite the tournament.
Yeah, it was. I didn't get to watch much of it because I was on vacation, but I did read some articles. And yeah, a couple of hometown boys, native to the state, play golf here that just played well, and it just proves the caliber. Just down in the South is just great. Right. The golfers here, so we got a lot of talent, and yeah, I just hope it feeds over. You know, the University of Alabama, that team was strong several years ago. I mean, they had a couple of national championships, and they seem to struggle a little bit, so hopefully this gives them a little bit of momentum. And again, the talent on that team on paper is just like wow. So yeah, hope to keep the momentum going for the University of Alabama. And then you got Gordon over at Vanderbilt, which they've had a great team, and I think they're keeping the momentum going up there. I hadn't really paid attention to their program, but it's just getting started. They just started their first events probably this week or next week.
I think they did a great job because, you know, going over to Europe, just like we're about to do in the Ryder Cup, the Europeans have a chance to set the golf course up exactly like they wanted. And most of the time, European golfers hit it straighter. You know, they know how to run the ball up to the green, so they'll bring the rough in, they'll make the fairways really tight, and, you know, on this side of the pond in the United States, a lot of us hit the ball far and we don't hit it as straight, and so ultimately we get over there and don't play correctly or play the shots that we need to keep it in the fairway, because St. Andrews is a links course, so you can run it down the fairway and get your distance that way. You don't have to carry it all the way. So I think it was great the way that they were able to adapt to the climate, the golf course, the type of grasses, things like that. And I know they spent some time over there before getting ready, but I think it's awesome to go. Whenever you can go to Europe and win, I think it is a very good accomplishment. It's a hard accomplishment to do.
And they got to play at St. Andrews. I mean, how many British Opens have they played
wonderful
there?
Course.
It's a wonderful course. I mean, obviously it's different, like you guys said, and you got to deal with those bunkers. The weather's.
How was the weather? I didn't get to see it.
Oh, I mean, it looked sunny from the pictures.
So as long as the weather
didn't look awful.
Yeah, I bet if the weather moved in, it would have been a lot tougher, because you're right, that we do hit it higher, and I mean, a lot of those players on the U.S. team are known for their distance, and you got to get the ball out of the air as quick as possible and run, and yeah, it sounds like they did a good job, and maybe weather was in our favor. I'm not really sure.
It looked like it. The day that I watched, it was sunny. I mean, the wind didn't look like it was blowing very hard.
Right.
The temperature was still cool. I mean, they were in, you know, some sweat pullover, things like that. But I didn't notice a day where, I mean, there was an overcast day, but it never really got to what you would consider British Open weather, which is raining sideways and the wind blowing 30 miles an hour. And you have, like you said, you have to hit it about this high, you know, to be able to contend. And it always seems like European golfers, because they grow up in that, they're more adept to hitting those tight shots and playing them and controlling them. And that's where they tend to get us when we come over on their side of the golf course.
It's probably the approach shots, don't you think?
Definitely.
A lot different.
100%.
Also, some news out of Alabama. Craig Bocking became a PGA Masters status. He's a North Alabama grad, and we're talking off air, guys. There's not many of these, but it's also one of those things, and you guys were talking about it takes a lot of time to get to that point. And there's, again, 22,000 PGA members and not many masters. So it's quite the accomplishment to reach that level.
Yeah, I think it's in the hundreds. I'd read somewhere that
it's about 2%.
Yeah, I think it's 300 to 400 maybe master professionals that are active. To my knowledge, again, I'm just going through the program, the associate program, which means, hey, I'm just on my journey to be a Class A professional with the PGA, so I haven't even attempted to look at master, but to my knowledge, you basically pick a topic in golf and you have to become an expert, and that's what you do. So you have to write a thesis, just like any kind of master's program in college. A lot of people don't realize this is not like getting your insurance license or a realtor license or something like that you can take and purchase a $40 course online. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but take a test and be done. The PGA takes it very serious, and I think that's why there's so much professionalism in it. And the thing is, it's just a lot of status behind it. And this is an actual 4-year degree at universities that you can go and get.
Yeah.
And which is pretty neat, and you pride yourself. And again, I'm not doing it in the university setting. I'm doing it directly with the PGA Tour, and that's how you did it.
That's right.
And it's a 3-year program, and that's if you're moving pretty good.
Yeah.
So even outside of the academic or the college, it's still a 3-year program, and it's time consuming, a lot of work. And then you go to the master professional side, and you pick that topic and you write that thesis. You do a lot of research based, and again, you got to basically write a paper proving to the PGA that you've got a different point of view of something and you've done this amount of research. I think it's pretty tough, and I don't know what Craig Bakken did his on. I'd be curious, but we used to have a master professional over at Turtle Point, and his was on short game.
Yes,
and he was a short game master professional, and that's how he would represent himself. I'm a short game master. Come to me if you need any help with your short game, because he did extensive research and techniques of how to do the short game.
It's a great honor. I mean, it's something that, like Daniel was saying, I think there's about 400, which is roughly, what's that, 2% of the
Small
20? I mean, it's a
percentage,
very small percentage. And it takes, a while to get that as well. And you do have to do the research, and you have to, up front, like Daniel was saying, you have to pick. So you could pick, short game. You could pick full swing. You can also go into the golf side. So you could pick golf cart fleet management, which is managing golf carts. You could pick, managing the certain types of, like, food and beverage, different types of the business aspect of golf. So you've got the instruction side, and then you've got the working behind the counter, working at a club, things like that. If you've got something that you've done at your club that is different than everybody else does it, and it's really worked, then you go in and you get your master's professional. And it's a cool thing that you can do, and it sets you apart from the other 22,000 PGA professionals. And it's just like in any business or with any degree, if you can get that extra little bit that kind of sets you above, then people are like, oh, he has done some extra studies and things like that. He may have something that I want to go and either find out about, or call him and talk to him about it, or things like that. So I think there's opportunities within the PGA, like becoming a PGA coach, which is something that I did mine, and it was a 40-hour class. So I went in and did that, and it gives you an extensive overview of coaching in an aspect of, like, clinics and camps and things like that. And so there's a lot of things that they do that are free to you as a PGA professional to go in and learn and add to your resume, pretty much. So
almost like earning a doctorate in golf.
Pretty much.
That is the time that he put into it. That is equivalent to that. Yeah. And again, it's pretty neat. Again, if anybody's familiar with Craig Bakken, he's been successful, has some high status amateurs that come and see him across the country. And again, like any of us in this business, we want to make a name for ourselves and build the best players, right? And and have a high status, and this is going to help him get some of these high caliber players that may be searching for a new swing coach, and his name might pop up.
Moving on the college side of things, North Alabama, the men's side got off to a great start this past weekend. Went to the Iowa Invitational, finished third, guys. Yeah. Out of I forgot how many teams. It was more than 10, but they finished third. They had 3 guys finish in the top 10. Got a new coach. It's a great start for these guys.
Yeah, very good. I'm not, new coach comes in. I'm not familiar with the players on the team yet. I'm sure as the fall goes on, we'll meet a handful of them and see them. But yeah, great start for the season. I know the coach was probably happy with that.
No kidding.
And sports it's the same in every sport. Momentum is key, and it can go in the right direction or the wrong direction. Right. And this is at least the water's moving in the right direction, and you got to just keep doing what you do best. The players know how to play golf. They've done it probably most of their lives. The coach, he knows how to coach. He's been at other programs and brought programs to light and made them competitive. So just keep into the processes, and that coaches always say processes. And as long as he has the process and the team sticks with it and he sells them on it, they'll be just fine.
I think it was great. Last year they had a few of their top players, top 5. I think and I could be wrong, don't hold me to this, but I think 2, maybe 3 out of the top 5 that graduated. So having to bring up some other players, either JUCO transfers or things like that, coming in, and they played well. And you always, as a coach, you always want to get off to a good start. If you don't get a win, then you're looking at a top 3, top 5 finish that you can build on, and then you have your things that you're going to work on top of that. So I think it's very good for them to go and get that finish. This is the first year that they are fully eligible to go into the post, if I'm not mistaken. And so with that, you want to get off to a good start so you're not coming from behind. I think they've got 5 events in the fall and then 6 in the spring. And so we'll see how that continues. I think in the fall they play at Turtle Point. They have their Turtle Point tournament. And so it'd be interesting to go out, watch them out at Turtle Point. Be a bunch of good golf being played out there. And so good for them. We're UNA grads, and so love UNA and want them to succeed.
Yeah, good start for the Lions. Hope to see more continue to rise with the new coach. Well, coming up next, we'll go to the mailbag segment. I'm going to throw a couple questions at these guys. That's next here on the Back Nine from Wohali Sports.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
A local law firm respected throughout the state. Generations of clients have turned to Boston, Holt, and Durham since 1948. We assist individuals and businesses with their legal needs, including real estate, property closings, personal injury, employment discrimination, and family law. Our clients get the personal attention and convenience of a hometown law firm with the resources and ability to handle any case. Come see us at Boston, Holt, and Durham.
If you're stuck, then you're in luck. Call Tyler McDowell with In-Service Towing, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for quick, reliable service. When you find yourself in a bind, In-Service offers full-service towing and recovery services as well as vehicle lockouts, jump starts, and emergency roadside assistance. Family-owned, family-operated. When you need a hand, call In-Service Towing or ask for them by name. Serving Southern Tennessee and North Alabama. Phone number 931-843-9098 or visit inservicespecialties.com.
For decades, First Class Charter has provided high-quality motor coach transportation services to the Tennessee Valley. With numerous safety and cleanliness accreditations, First Class Charter is ready to make your group trip a reality. Contact us today by visiting firstclasscharter.net. First Class Charter, the official motor coach company of the North Alabama Lions.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Back here at the Back Nine, brought to you by Wohali Sports. Time to get into the mailbag. The first one, guys, it's coming personally from me, and I've heard this a few times, and I'm sure you guys have heard it a million times. They've got that baseball swing. So I'm sure you get a lot of dual guys. You got some former baseball players that want to come in, aren't playing anymore, want to play golf. I know from personal experience, when I played, the majority of my hits came in two places: down the left field line or in the right center field gap. And I find a lot of my golf shots go straight to the left, hooking down the left field line, or tail off to the right. So when you get one of those baseball swing guys, how do you kind of correct that to get them in that consistent, perfect swing? Is a lot of what we've already been talking about here through the first few episodes.
Noticed how he said he hadn't learned anything from this, has he? That perfect swing.
No,
how do I get that perfect swing?
Improved swing.
There we go.
Improved
I like
swing.
that.
So perfect. We're always chasing perfection, and even the best of the best, they're always constantly working. So, but anyway, yeah, having a good understanding. But yeah, back to that baseball swing is, I get those people who are like, good luck with me, I got that baseball swing. And I'm like, well, tell me about what is a baseball swing? And it's funny, it's just become a term, and they feel like that they're automatically going to be swinging poorly. And it's actually some of my best ones came from a baseball background.
100%.
The only difference in baseball, and I'm just going to sum it up really quick and kind of let you, is I actually love it because at least they have rotation background, right? Rotation is key. And when you hit that baseball, that chest, and you hear a lot of golfers talk about, I have poor hip rotation. I brought up Rory McIlroy earlier about his hips only rotating 31 degrees, and we'll talk about that in another day. You're going to see, and a lot of it's grip, a lot of it's where their club is up top. So basically how they square the club and their flexion and extension of the wrist. So flexion is going to be this, and extension is going to be this. So how this left wrist works is going to closely tie to how much you rotate. If you watch Dustin Johnson, he comes through impact like this, and a lot of golfers say, hey, I want my wrist flat or bowed like this. Well, if you do that, you better rotate, and your whole pelvis better be pointing at the target. Don't you agree?
Yeah, you're going to hit it in the road.
And then if you come through slightly broken or kind of straight like here, and that's what we kind of strive for, that's more of your neutral golfer. We don't want to be out here, of course. But the thing is you rotate less, because the more you come through here and the less you rotate, what's going to happen?
Club face is closed.
Well, actually on Dustin, will his be closed or open?
His is going to be open.
Yeah, and then you go to Roy McIlroy. If he rotates 50 degrees like Dustin Johnson, he comes through like this, he's going to be low into the left, which he does fight a little bit.
For sure.
So I guess what I'm saying is hip rotation, actually everybody has a pretty good hip rotation. It's a wide variety. But one thing, if you look at a golfer, a good ball striker, high amateur player, college player, pro player, LPGA, PGA, it doesn't matter. Their chest is going to be open to the target as soon as they make contact. 10 out of 10. I'm going to go ahead and say 10 out of 10. Even my high-level juniors, their shoulders are close to the target or square with the target, and it's because their chest rotations poorly. But my baseball players, once they know that, I'm like, well, if you could do that in baseball, let's do it in golf. And once they understand it, they're actually good. The only difference in golf and baseball, in my opinion, it's a different plane. You go from the ball being at chest down to there, and you just got to get them comfortable doing that. Once they understand the movements and how they closely tie together, don't you think?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, like you said, it's a instead of at chest level hitting the ball or somewhere, you're at a 45 or 50 degree bend, and so you have to teach them how to do that. I think a few of like you were talking about earlier with your baseballs, you got your striders and your super striders and things like that.
And guys that don't stride at all.
That's right. That tend to load more on their back foot at start and then stride their way forward. I think there is a slight bit of different load pattern when you get right down and look at it on the screen between the baseball swing and the golf swing, but it is entirely, and I heard this, and I know you heard it too. I heard it coming up from when I was 9 years old, is you can't play baseball and golf together. It's going to totally mess up both swings, and it's going to, you're going to be really good at one or not good at the other, and you can't mix and match. But like Daniel said, most of the baseball guys that come in that are coming right off playing maybe high school or college, their biggest thing is they maybe rotate their chest way too fast and not too fast, but they do it super early and then they slice the ball.
And they
really
tend to
bad.
stand
and
up
they do.
because they're hitting on that different plane. So what happens if you rotate too much and stand up, that causes that casting over the top.
Right.
But if we can teach these players, hey, you've got to keep good posture, and we call it forward bend and side bend. They work together, and again, it's a dynamic motion, so we're rotating. So forward bend and side bend are both important, and to understand those, and we can talk about that at another time. But the thing is, if they can understand forward bend, side bend, and keeping it, how it should feel, everything else is the same.
Yeah.
There's only a few things, and you talked about load pattern. What we see, the other thing is baseball players tend to spin out on their back foot, and I see that. I mean, how many times have you heard the term squash the bug?
Yep.
You don't want to squash the bug in golf, and you hear that little crunch.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear that. It actually should be very quiet. The quieter that right foot stays and kind of rolls over towards the lead foot, the better. Yep. Honestly, in a 1 hour session, a baseball player can come in here and have a very good understanding and a clear view, and then they just need to go practice it. Does that make sense? In 1 hour, you can fix a baseball player really quickly.
I love teaching baseball players. It's fun because they can do stuff that other people have not done in the past. They've done it.
I found that the one sport that they transition to golf really well, and I feel like, because I played with some of them, I feel like they're really good at golf, is hockey players.
Oh, hockey players are great.
Killing at golf.
And
thing is, they're on that correct plane already, and you got to think. In hockey, that sticks really long. Your hands are far apart.
Yeah.
It's tell you weird. I played street hockey growing up, and I'm left-handed. I don't know why in hockey. I
is
play
weird.
left-handed, as you can see. Yeah. But the thing is, in golf, your hands are close together, so it's easy to break these wrists.
Yeah.
Hockey players, their wrists are locked, so they're already familiar with the plane, and they have to use that core, your stability muscles to really fire that puck. When you put a golf club in their hand, they already got most of the battle figured out. Now you just got to teach them on the back swing and get in a good position up here. And once they clean up that transition, because that's something they're unfamiliar with, they got it down through the impact.
Yeah, they don't have to get hit in the process. So
that's correct. They don't lose their teeth. So
you don't have to wear pads.
Or helmets, or skating or hit something off ice, which is never a fun thing. I've seen a lot technology-wise. I do have a friend that's really crazy when it comes to not like the ball tracking, but the distance. He literally puts a speaker on top of a golf cart, and before he's about to hit it, the speaker breaks out the distance. Is there good technology, too much technology, bad technology? I don't necessarily know the rules in a tournament, what you can and can't do, but do you guys like to keep it simple, or just as minimal, or are you big all technology when you're out on the course?
In my opinion, I'm a rangefinder and yardage book guy.
Yeah.
I can see the pro for some people of having, I guess the one thing about the wingman is what it's called. That goes the Bushnell. It goes up on your cart. And I've wondered this. So let's say you pull your cart up a yard in front of your ball, and it gives you 147, and you're 148 or 149 or 150 or whatever. that's why I like the rangefinder, that you go right up to the ball and you shoot your yardage, and you can shoot the bunker or you can shoot whatever. I think the Bushnell thing gives you front, back, and the flag, or
you won't do the flag.
You won't do the flag.
I got you. So just do medium. I've got a little wingman. That speaker's great. I don't use it for that purpose. I'm jamming out to 80s music or something and making everybody upset on the golf course.
He's funny. He goes out to he's already got the club in hand. 149. I'm like, well, you already know what you're going to hit, so why did you bring this thing with you?
I think those yardages are pretty general, and I think that's good for your just average golfer because your average golfer out there doesn't hit precise enough to get the exact to the flag. So if you know the yardage to the center of the green, that's going to put you at a good chance to have a putt for that par, birdie, whatever it is that you're hitting. But I'm like Jason. Me personally, I got a rangefinder. I'm firing at everything. I'm shooting trees, bunkers, front of the green, back of the green. The one thing that I'm really, really particular about is you always play your carry yardages versus total. Too many people say, hey, I hit my 9-iron 142 or 145 yards. And I'm like, is that carry or total? And they look at me like,
what are you talking about?
That's total. And I'm like, well, what if it's wet out there that day and you're 145, or if it's hard out there that day, it's 140. I mean, it's going to change how far it goes. So the one thing that doesn't change is carry. And the thing is, there are factors that can affect carry, and that's where the wind's going and the temperature outside.
Right.
So as long as you know how to gauge that, you need to know your carry. We had the UNA girls golf team come out here 2 weeks ago, and we were just gapping their clubs. We wanted to know exactly carry. And I think only 2 girls on the team went by carry. And I was like, Coach Neil, man, we got to get these girls. And he's like,
seriously?
I know.
Yeah. They go by total?
They were going by total rather than carry. And again, that can be the difference. And these girls are talented.
Yeah.
That can be the difference in 3 or 4 strokes in a round right there.
Definitely.
So again, I want to shoot. So if I shoot the pin and it's 130, more than likely you're going to miss hit the shot just slightly.
Right.
You know? So if you got a club that goes 130, you know, hey, if I hit this solid, it's going to land right by the hole, and there's always room behind the flag.
Yeah.
You know? And if I miss hit it a little bit, it's going to land short. So either way, I'm going to have a decent birdie putt, right? But if I go off total, there's a lot of factors that can go in. One, it's going to carry way shorter than the yardage. So if I miss hit it, I'm short of the green, right? Now I'm chipping. And if you look at your amateur golfers, they're short probably 85% of the time, right?
At least.
And if they're long, it's because they hit it thin and stole
you're correct.
You know?
100%.
So getting these golfers in here and learning to go off carry always. But the thing is total's more fun because it's a bigger number.
It makes you feel better.
It makes you feel a lot better. And the thing is, you got to get over that, and we got to go off carry and know the carry, because total is influenced by the bounce it gets and the firmness and the conditions.
Yep.
And that changes every single day.
Final one here in the mailbag, funner one. Favorite golf movies?
Hands down, you know, I think they're all great, but I will drop whatever I'm doing. It doesn't matter. 10 Cup I'm going to watch every time. I do not know why, but I love that movie. And people are I'm going to get scolded for this, but probably my least favorite, that's everybody's favorite, is Caddyshack. I love it, but I can watch it bits and pieces and take it or leave it. But I'm a Happy Gilmore fan for whatever. But 10 Cup, by far, there's a huge gap between every golf movie and 10 Cup. Yeah. And then, is it 7 Days in Tibet or something?
7 Days in Utopia.
Utopia is a very
great movie.
Good movie. It has a local...
It does.
A local kid that I played. Speak. I played with him in high school golf, and he's the actor.
Oh, okay.
And you're familiar with Lucas Black. Lucas Black.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you know, he's Fast and Furious movies. He's a big actor, and he's in that movie. He's a very big golfer. When I was at RTJ, when you were out there,
he used to come out there and play all the time.
And he started getting lessons from us. He actually tried mini tours. He was a scratch golfer. You got to be better than scratch to do what he was trying to do. But he was definitely talented, and because of his golf, he got that part in that movie, and it's a great movie. And I forgot who the old man is in that movie, but he's heavy.
He plays in a lot of westerns. Yeah, the older guy. I can't remember his name either.
But 10 Cup.
Yeah. 10 Cup. That's my favorite movie.
The opening lines, you know, when he does it's like poetic of how the golf swing works. Love it. I can watch the opening all the time.
I love the part, you know, and I guess because I've done it, when he's in the fairway and he's got the lead, and he hits the shot, knocks it in the water, and he looks up, a little gust of wind got him or whatever, and he's like standing there like this.
Yeah.
And his caddy's like, wrong, no, just lay it up, you know. He's like, ball, drops it, water. He just keeps doing it.
Yeah.
I can get it over. I know. I mean, how many times have you said that to yourself? I can get it over that. I know I can do
originally
it.
In the day earlier, he took the ball and he's like, "You're right," and they walked up there. But I think it was out of frustration, knowing that he could hit the shot.
Yeah.
But again,
it's just a great.
You got to know your limits, and he knew his limits. The fact is he knew how. This goes back to the carry. There was water in front of the green. He knew he could carry it if he hit it just right.
Yeah, perfect.
The thing is most golfers go off total, and that puts it in the water every time carrying. He knew his limits. He knew what he could do, and that's why he kept doing it, and he wanted to prove it not only to himself but the world, and I think more so to himself in that movie, and that's what makes it great. He didn't care about the tournament or whatnot, just getting it over the water.
Sure.
Yeah,
but
Tin Cup is great. Obviously, love Happy Gilmore. It's so quotable, it's goofy, but
it is
you know,
goofy,
I mean,
but it's good.
Everyone's come across a Shooter McGavin at some point.
There's a Shooter McGavin. Yep.
There's always some Shooter McGavin now. And of course, an underrated one. I think it's called The Greatest Game Ever Played.
That's a good one. It's got
about
Will
Francis
Smith.
Wee-Myth.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I actually forgot about that one. I love
and
that
then
movie. I watched that one.
You got Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius, which is a very good one if you want to watch and learn about that time period of golf.
Yeah.
It's really good. And then Ben Hogan's got one out about his life that they put out on the Golf Channel that's a really good movie as well.
And one of my all-time favorites, it's a documentary, but it's the behind the scenes about what was going on with Jack during the '86 Masters, from told by the people producing it from CBS, how they just went, no, don't worry about Jack, he's not going to win it today. Then all of a sudden, like, hey, Jack's like 5 under on the front nine. Here's this, eagle putt that he just had on one of the par fives, and the guy's like, forget it, show it. And then next thing you know, he takes off and wins the '86 Masters. So that was that, and the one ESPN did about Greg Norman. And that's.
I haven't seen. I've seen the documentary. I guess that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as documentaries go,
poor Greg.
Yeah, that one was great. And then the most recent one with Tiger that was on HBO was very eye-opening. I think for people that didn't realize everything going on
and John
the
Daly.
struggles.
John Daly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good documentaries out there. But yeah, there's Golf Channel. If you watch during slow weeks when there's not much going on,
they're playing movies.
You can catch several,
and they're all
movies.
really good.
And it's about to happen after the Ryder Cup. It's going to get.
It will.
Get
You'll have
slow
a couple weeks where it'll be movie time.
Yeah,
it will.
Tune in. You guys probably find something that you like on there. Well, that will do it for the Back Nine here from Wohali Sports. For Jason Vaughn, Daniel Cream, and for producer extraordinaire Kevin Wright, this is AJ Good. We'll see you guys next week.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.